4, 3, 2, 1. Super progressive. What is good, everybody? Can we get a mic check? Can you guys hear me loud and clear? Danny, can we get a little mic check? Can we get a little mic check? Once again.
Checking. 1, 2, 3.
Let's go. We have audio. Chat, what's up, everybody in the chat? We see you calling in from literally all around the world. We have Argentina, we have Bucharest, we have, oh my gosh, Portugal, North Carolina, Jersey Shore, Berlin, Norwich, UK, Taiwan, Austin, Texas, Boston, Florida, Oslo, Norway, Baltimore, Berlin again. Guys, New York City, of course. Danny, this is what it's all about. The music is the answer all around the world. Liverpool, Fort Worth, Texas. Let's go. Well,
what took us so long to do this?
No, this is going to be a lot of fun. Danny, it's about, sorry guys, it's about 90 degrees Fahrenheit. I think that's like 32 degrees Celsius in my house right now, so I'm dripping sweat, but this is going to be a lot of fun. Danny, how are you doing?
I'm pretty good. I'm here. Also, AC is not kicking in the way it's supposed to. I think it's because it's so hot out. Everybody's blessing their ACs.
Yeah. I mean, this heat wave is pretty crazy. Well, yeah. Every stream, I like to wear an applicable t-shirt, right? And luckily, I've had a few DTs in my collection. But I chose to go with this one, Danny. The DT ARC, Danny Tenaglia versus Danny Howes shirt. But then I was like, actually, I kind of want to rep Winter Music Conference.
Do it. Oh, Lord. Oh, wow.
And I had to get on the Winter Music Conference 2001 shirt.
I almost don't remember that.
With the I Survived Danny, the legendary Danny Tenaglia Party at Space at the back.
Damn.
But then I was listening to one of your mix compilations this morning.
No. The reveal.
And I had to settle on the Back to Basics. One of my all-time favorites.
You're amazing.
But no, thank you. All right, Danny. So why we're here is to have a chat about, obviously the track Music is the Answer, but also this unbelievable video that you found in your vault that you shared out to your fans just the other day. It was so much fun for me, just as a fan of yours, reading through the comments and how many stories seem to come out, how all the people's different memories about the track. So I thought it would be a lot of fun to watch the video with you live, and we can take some questions from the chat as they come up.
Should I give any kind of words before we hit play?
Absolutely, I would love that.
Okay, so I just basically want to tell people that besides Music is the Answer, Access Recording Studio was by far my favorite studio to record at. What the people are going to see is us in the programming room, which was on the 16th floor. It wasn't the penthouse where the SSL console was. That's where we would do the mixing. They even had like a, what do you call that when you go outside, a balcony kind of thing. And you're just on this 17 stories high in Manhattan. And this is this building that also was the same building as Studio 54. So every time I went to a recording session, I had to walk right through those doors, well, to the left to get to the elevator. But the main entrance to Studio 54 is just inches away. So I have such history there. And I wasn't the only person who loved using Access Recording Studio. CNC Music Factory probably did a ton of hits there. But yeah, I just wanted to let them know that Access Studio was owned by Francois Kevorkian. And in that particular room, he used the console, I believe it was called the Amec Angela. And he preferred that mixing console. And he mixed the entire Violator by Depeche Mode LP in that room. So a lot of people don't know that, but he's the engineer on that album. And besides Music is the Answer, I probably did almost all of tourism in that programming room, as well as many, many, many remixes. So love to Access.
Definitely. And for all of us watching, can you give us kind of a timeline so we know when this is happening, in history?
Okay. Well, my first introduction to Access was I moved back to New York from Miami in 1990. And one of my first remixes, I was hired to remix Daget, You Got Me Up. And I don't even remember how I got introduced to that studio, but that was 91 or 92, so 30 years. And ever since then, it was my favorite studio to work at. So that was my introduction to Access.
And one thing I know that you have in your collection, it's so cool. Acid would make the Access beat maps. That would, what are they called? Beat maps, or where you would write in?
Oh, the track list.
Yeah, the track list.
Yeah, it comes with every session because each 2-inch tape has a maximum of 24 tracks that you can record on, but actually it's 23 because track 24 is always the SMPTE code that you would use to lock to the instruments and what it would use to lock to the second machine as we would go 48 tracks. So you would have 2 tape machines syncing, and so we could ultimately do 46 tracks. 2 were reserved for sync codes.
Oh, totally. And it's so cool, the history of the building with Francois Kevorkian, the location of it with Studio 54. It's like, how can you not walk into that place feeling super inspired?
To make it even more legendary, if I was going into the main entrance of the lobby to get to the elevator, to the right is the doors to Studio 54. To the left was a studio in the basement. Pretty sure it was called Soundworks. And that's where Chet Pettibone was doing all of his Madonna remixes and New Order, Pet Shop Boys. Who knows what he did down there. And I got to visit down there a couple of times. Like, come on down. I was like, wow. So I'm like, such history in Studio 254 West 54th Street. A lot.
Yeah, a viewer, Seth Lambert, had mentioned Access. They mixed some Depeche Mode singles there, right? So it's
The whole
cool.
Violator album.
Oh,
the
wow.
entire Violator album was mixed in B Room by Francois. He was the engineer.
Oh, amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, some of the questions are coming in. I think it would be good if maybe we start the video and we can kind of go through it and talk about the people involved that we see, and especially the equipment that we see and the whole process.
Whatever you want.
Awesome. So hopefully, let's do this.
What's up, everybody?
3-stream window. So guys, what we're about to do is watch the full-length video that Danny shared the other day. And this video lives in its entirety on his YouTube channel, so you can go and watch it there anytime you want to watch it in full. And we are gonna start it right now, and it should all come up. There we go. All right, Danny, so this is us walking into the studio.
Yes, this is like a little lounge break area. I see my assistant engineer in the background, Ben Grissini.
Wait, was that Ben in the Ben in the red?
Yeah. And
Nice.
that was the guy with the red hat was an intern named Dan. And yeah, he looks like he's peeling stickers off a flight case. Yeah, there's some gold and platinum records are hanging on the wall there that related to the studio. Now we're entering the B Room Lounge, and that's the little sofa. Some simple artwork.
Seems like a really chill spot to hang out.
Yeah, it had great views. There was windows in the room surrounding, and you always had a good view from up there.
Nice, nice. So now is this the main studio that we're about to walk into?
Yes, this is Francois's B Room with the Amec Angela. Somebody might want to correct me, but I'm pretty sure that was what it was called, the console. And the engineer to the left is Rob Reeves. He worked on pretty much the whole album and many other remixes. And he also was an artist on Francois' label called Wave Records. And he was AKA Floppy Sounds. So that's
Nice.
where he was his Floppy Sounds.
Danny, do you want to scoot just to your left? There you go. Just
Okay.
so yeah, just so you're centered.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna keep going. And it's cool because Aaron Hedges had commented, didn't Rob Rives also do engineering on Music is the Answer? And there he is.
Yeah. Be yourself, everything, elements.
Nice. So, okay. So as we approach some equipment, I'd love for you to give a breakdown for everyone of what we're about to see. You can just tell me when to stop, but I think we'll start
Okay.
with the little thing over here, the sampler.
So yeah, that's a SP 1200 drum machine. And it's an iconic drum machine that sells for a lot of money these days. People that really in the dance music field that were really known for making it famous was Todd Terry, Kenny Dope, Muta Swing, John Chiafone, Seven Fisher, and a lot of hip hop guys would use the SP 1200. Louis Ballo, and I can't think of anybody else, but yeah, it's got a grainy, rough sound that hits hard. Yeah.
And one question I have off the bat is there's so much equipment in this room. I know you have a lot of equipment, but was this you bringing some things and then
Yes.
syncing it up with the
This stuff
studio?
here in the flight cases was my stuff that I would bring from home.
Nice. Okay, we'll move on to the next one. You still have most of these in your vault, right?
I have everything, but I no longer have the Akai sampler,
Oh, nice,
which
nice,
would have
nice.
left the beige thing.
Okay, so when we posted this, everyone was super excited, not only to see this, but in the video, you said, it's crazy. We still use these things.
Let me tell you what's insane about the process, because the way most people make dance music in Ableton and Logic and all those programs is like sometimes we might catch a loop or a vocal sample or kick drum. You pretty much might have it playing from the beginning of the song to the end, and then you mute it on and off where you want to do the drops. And that's how we would record back then. So what you're even hearing when we do play the music and Music is the Answer, we're obviously there recording drums and patterns to the tape, but we had to hit play, record, and record for the whole 8-9 minutes, whatever the song is. So if let's say I wanted to, oh, Rob, I want to change that kick drum. I like this one better. We had to sit there and listen to it for 9 minutes. So all 46 tracks that are recorded, if I use that many, were pretty much looped from beginning to end. And so it's a process. It takes a lot of time to get it to the tape, because also the reason why I do that was because sometimes the mix days would be far away from the day you did the programming. And then when you go back to the studio, you put on the tapes on the tape machine, you're easily remembering what was what. You don't have to wait for a certain section of the tape to play like at 5.7 seconds. Oh, that's where the hut now, you know what I mean? So let me do it from beginning to end and have it where I wanted it. And once I did the arrangement upstairs in the SSL console, then we printed it to small DAT tape machine, take it home, load it into Ableton, and then do editing. So it was a crazy process, but so much of that is eliminated now with the programs and the software and the plugins. It's insane.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
insane. This
It
is why I
sounds
don't
like
use a lot of the equipment anymore, because a lot of it is just easily accessible with the click of a mouse. The plugins, everything is right there on the screen. So,
with this process, it seems that you get intimately familiar with every track that you're making.
oh yeah. And I also, besides the track listing where you would put kick, bass, drum sample, Salida vocal, Salida sample, um, For instance, I noticed that on the tape, I did a close look. Even though I'm recording music is the answer, on the long keyboard, it's called a chord trinity. There's a big strip of artist tape, and I could see that all the samples that I've written were from Liz Torres' "You Turn Me On." So, I would take each word or phrase, and you hit the keyboard, it's sampled in there, and you get I just, yeah, yeah, turn me, and it's the whole keyboard would be full of different, samples, mainly the vocals.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's we'll keep rolling here. No pun intended. Wow.
Can I tell you also about these machines?
Yeah, definitely.
If we were starting a session, I think there's a Studer, the brand is Studer. We would have to get someone to come in and calibrate each individual the tracks. And I never really fully understood all the technical stuff that has to do with that. But that was one of the first things that had to be done. And even that was, you're paying for studio time. And when you get there, you got to wait for somebody to come and calibrate the machines. And a lot of time is being wasted on technical stuff.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
A quick question here from Darren O'Connor. It sounds like a time intensive process. How many hours from start to finish did Music Is the Answer take you? Or any form of measurement that you like?
Yeah. I would guess, because it's different sessions, like the vocal session was one day. And then obviously I'm recording some more parts while Seven Fisher was in the studio that day with me, Salita lives in Chicago. And I would guess somewhere about 40 hours.
Nice.
Doing different versions or the editing process. And yeah, that's my guess.
Nice. Keep it going here. Thanks for that question, Darren. That's epic.
Yeah.
So, quick question from Jurassic Trance as we kind of make our way through the studio. It's on topic. How does Danny feel about, and Jurassic Trance is David, my friend who collects the acetates.
Oh, I love this guy.
How does Danny feel about producing today compared to back then? It seems that many people feel the constraints of the time resulted in a lot more creativity as you really had to work at it.
Yeah, there's something to be said for going to a professional state-of-the-art recording studio, gathering a team, the engineer you're going to hire. Very often I hired a musician. Peter Dow and Eddie Montilla were my main keyboard people. And sometimes I hired people to help me with drums, like John Chiafone and Louis Ballo, Seven. And, you're gathering everybody's getting a fee for their position. And, there's no time really to mess around. You went there to do a job. It's a recording session. It's almost like the band is getting together in a way, and you're about to go down the track with each other and hit play. From there, you take it from there, but you keep your eye on the clock. I pretty much used to lock out the whole day, which was like 12 to 14 hours of programming or mixing. And I pretty much would say that out of the 14 hours, a good solid 9-10 hours went into the process of the recording with the drums or keyboards or, people that might have been helping me, or vocals if it was that particular day. Yes, it's a lot.
I have a funny question. I have a funny question for you. I know you're a huge Beatles fan. The studio is booked. Are you like Paul, walking in ready to get things done right off the bat? Or are you more like how John looked in Get Back, where it's a little more relaxed and get warmed up and vibe it out?
I think it's a little both. When I first started doing this, obviously I was very green, very dependent on the engineer. And even back in my early days, I lived in Miami from 85 to 90. And back then, a lot of people don't notice, but Ralph Falcon, who's one half of Merck, Oscar G and Ralph Falcon, um, I would hire Ralph Falcon. He was like 18 years old, and he would be my programmer on some songs. Uh, he used to use a Roland D50, I believe, sampler keyboard. And it was songs like one of my first remixes, Found Love by Double D. My track, Deep State on Atlantic Records. Everybody Get Down and Waiting for a Call. So yeah, that's kind of history. When I moved back to New York in 90, a legendary music producer, DJ from Brooklyn, Tommy Musto, he was one of the first people that helped me to program, and he completely taught me how to use the Akai. Back then it was the 900, then the 950 came out, then the 1000. But Tommy taught me how to use the sampler, and I became addicted to it. And he introduced me to Peter Dow. And then I did a record for an artist, Patrick O'Hearn, which had a rap on it. But we brought in Barbara Tucker to sing ad-libs. And that was 1991. Barbara Tucker, 31 years ago.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's a lot of history.
Yeah, it's great. I'm gonna press play here. So many questions, but we're just gonna keep going through, and I'll ask the questions as they come through. Okay, wait. So we'll go here.
Yeah, this is the MU SB1200.
Nice.
And these beige units are the Akai samplers. One of them is the S950, and the one below is the S1000. And the workhorses, you couldn't fit a lot of memory. You had to use a floppy disk. And each floppy disk held just a little bit amount of memory.
Is that insert right over here?
Yes, that's for the floppy.
Oh, very cool.
And I can't see anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's below.
Yeah, it's a little.
You can make that clearer.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the Chord Trinity. I used to use that as a controller. There's some particular sounds in there that were really good too. Like the sound that I make the bass line with for Music is the Answer is right out of that keyboard. I think it's called ribbon bass, but that might have been for Turn Me On. But yeah, there was good percussion in there, string sounds, got a lot of use out of that machine. I still have it.
How many?
Go ahead.
From Risa Garcia, how many floppy disks per session did you ever run out?
Did I run out? I don't know. You might need to rephrase that. I'm a little confused.
Yeah, I know. I think it's just saying how many. Was there so many floppy disks that went into a session, like floppy disks, individual of them?
Not really, because the sounds that were on my floppy disks were more like samples, obscure samples. Could have been vocals, it could have been sounds, but most of the particular sounds to make the track are actually from the keyboards and the drum machines.
Nice.
So those were just, candy, to just get in there and just, if you want to do a brass sound and reverse it, and a lot of times that came from the sampler. That red thing?
Yeah.
That's the Nord lead.
1 second, I'm going to pull it back up again.
Yeah.
There you go.
NORD, Nord lead. And it comes in a keyboard as well, but that's the rack mount. And I probably was brand new to using that. And I definitely got a lot of use out of that for the Tourism album, as well as, it's flashback for me right now, but I'm thinking of Super Nature, the remix I did of Cerrone. I used that, and I used that. And if you scroll above, is that another keyboard above it?
Let me see if the video will bring me up.
Yeah, I think it will. Oh, that's the 909.
909. Nice.
Okay, so there was an orange one I used to bring to all my sessions, the Nord lead, and it was called the Waldorf Microwave.
Oh, yeah, that one's super funny.
And they're all in the basement, and I use those. I mean, I particularly use those two to make those minimal sounds that I wound up using to create Be Yourself.
Nice.
Can I include some history on that as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of people don't know this, but Salida came to New York from Chicago to record the vocals. We had a session at Access Studio, and then she's in the vocal booth. I'm at the producer's console area, and dancing, prancing, da 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 da, all went down really quick, and we still had several hours. So we're like, let's try to do another one while you're here. And she had the idea for Be Yourself, which the theme about Be Yourself was that Salida has a high regard for the artist Sylvester. He's like one of the first people really being himself in the 70s. He was a disco icon, and she looked up to him. And she came up with those lyrics. Let nobody tell you what to do. You got to live your life and see it through. Keep on living the way you are. Just to know love will make you a star. And that's, there's another verse, but we recorded that the same day as Music is the Answer. So the reason why I wanted to share this story is because the focus was Music is the Answer. The tracks that we were recording to was Music is the Answer. When we decided let's do a second song, I pulled down all the music, left the drums for Music is the Answer, and just came up with like a mock bass, steady note that you could sing those lyrics to. 1 year later, when I went in to remix it, because now she was also signed as an artist. So now she was going to come out an album. It was time for me to help make Be Yourself the single. So because I pulled down all the music, when I tried to do music to it, I'm pretty crafty with keyboards, but I can't work elaborately without a musician. But Music is the Answer was something, ha, 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 ha. I do stuff like that. I did all that. And the music wasn't working with Be Yourself because there was no music to really sing it to. So the notes that she was singing were sharp and flat, sharp and flat. We sent the recording vocals to another session for somebody to try to, today we have auto-tune, but we didn't use anything like that. But it was a blessing in disguise because I had to scrap that session, come back the next day and give it a different approach because we weren't having luck with trying to fix the vocals. So now with the Waldorf microwave and my appreciation for minimal back in that era, I decided to approach it that way, just by boom, 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 boom. It's a simple bass and that was really it. It was like, I knew I had something. It was so simple, but people don't realize that there's a genius to people like Maurizio from Chain Reaction who make these brilliant minimal records. There's so many artists I can name. Isolé, Ame, and the brilliance is in the subtle changes in these minimal records. And I allowed myself the patience to listen to some of these, and I was like, I want to make a record like this. So that's what Be Yourself came out of, those amazing lyrics. And then a bad session trying to put music, and then me going back the next day and say, okay, I'm going to keep it simple. And honestly, those are my two favorite productions that I've ever done.
Amazing.
Because I did them myself, like it was really, really magical.
Totally. In one weekend. Magic in the studio.
Oh yeah, well, like I said, the magic of recording those two vocals within 5 hours of each other. That's a dream come true. Like that's a Beatles story.
Yeah.
Those guys go to the studio and cut 4 songs a day.
No, definitely. There was a question up here that I wanted to ask about Salida. It was kind of like, the gist of the question was, what kind of equipment did you use to? Will Monotone, who was on the live stream last night actually. Need to know what piece of hardware he used to do the vocal on that's on Elements. We don't have to get into Elements, but you can.
Yes. What's funny? I was thinking about this. So now we're talking about 1998, 99, when I recorded that. Now we're living 30 somewhat years later, and AI, artificial intelligence, is people making songs with Drake's voice and all of that stuff you know about. Back then, the machine that I used, Will, was called a Digitech vocalizer. So in the Digitech vocalizer, it would set me up with the microphone, get on the headphones, and I start scrolling through the patches. One of them was MJ, obviously, trying to give you a Michael Jackson appeal, and it was high pitched. I can't remember all the other artists that they, obviously were meaning for that patch. And the one I wound up using was Be White, and obviously that's Barry White. So I was like, ladies and gentlemen, and it comes back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm like, I hear myself in the headphones like that, and it allowed me to put on this character and give the performance in the way I did. Because if you heard it normally, and I'm going to take you on a tour, I would never say it like that. But once I heard myself back as the Barry White voice, it put me into character. And yeah, that's it. Digitech vocalizer.
Oh, that's an awesome answer. Thanks for the question, Will. Thanks for the question. We will keep it going.
Yeah. Oh,
Here we go.
okay. So that the machine to your right, I want to tell people, if you go a little bit to the right of the monitor of the computer,
Uh-huh. One sec.
that's to the
Hopefully,
left, to the right.
yep, I'm just going to bring it back. There you go.
Yeah, that right there. That is also a Roland, and this is what we would use to sync the tracks. So the first thing that they would do is, set up a session, and it's called SMPTE. I don't remember what it means, SMPTE, but it's a sync related machine, and that's how you would do your MIDI with your keyboards into the computer, and that's the machine that would also lock the two machines together. It's probably obsolete, but
No, it's really cool.
their computer looks so old.
I know. I can't wait. There's a zoom up on the computer. We'll talk to it. We'll talk about it then. Oh, the
All
control
that gear in the
deck.
background, I'm sorry, all that gear in the background that you just passed is
Yep,
the
I'm going
in-house
back.
gear.
Okay, one
Yeah.
second. I'm going to go back. Pull it up right here.
Yeah. All of that is basically, Francois Studio. That's the stuff that comes with the B room. So it's all kinds of sounds that help particular instruments sound better. Like you might have let's say like SSL is a famous console, and they might have had like some SSL, what do you call it? Patches that you could apply to the Angela console that give it that SSL feel. But then it's all effects, probably the DP4 and Lexicon. I can't see them, but I'm not the engineer.
Mm-hmm.
I know these things just by looking at them, but that was common in a lot of studios to have a rack or a few racks of all this outboard gear. And again, a lot of this stuff is eliminated now. This is the stuff that's now plugins. You could buy these things for a couple of $100, and just like the synthesizers, you want to buy something that give you 10 of the most amazing pianos that were ever built. Boom, you can have it as a plugin. It's crazy. It's crazy. Technology.
Technology is crazy.
Okay, there's Seven Fisher, my buddy.
That's 7 right there.
To the right, yeah. He was doing vocals for the Better Days, and he was living there at the time. I think he was in New Jersey, but it's right across the water.
Right.
And yeah, and that's Rob Reeves, my sinister engineer. I love that guy.
So I remember in this scene, they're asking you in this scene, the reason we're not playing the audio is so we don't get copyrighted and take down. But they're asking you, have you thought of a name for your album yet, Danny? And you're like, tourism.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know it was a cliche kind of word, but I think at the around the same time that I was making this album, I was also now heavily into Global Underground, um, getting hired to play at like Love Parade in Berlin. And I had traveled to so many countries and being asked to go back and back and back again. Um, and I was touring so much, and it was giving me a whole different approach to the career and what my future might be. So I guess tourism threw people off, but I was learning a lot on the road, and I have so many stories I could share. But yeah, for me, tourism clicked at the time. I probably wouldn't name it that today.
It's the
But
spirit of the times. I mean, what is it? The
yeah,
mid to late 90s, like this is explosion is happening on a global scale. It's
yeah, a lot of
uncharted
things you don't
waters.
get to explain a lot of things, but for me,
Yeah.
it was also my first album was called Heart and Soul. I had songs on there like Look Ahead and Yesterday and Today, which come from my deep background, my roots in garage and deep house and MFSB and Rhodes and all that history. But I also had Bottom Heavy on there and a track I did called Work, and I was approaching it in a little bit of a harder capacity, so I called it Heart and Soul. Tourism was another little play of me being heart and soul at the same time. So I was touring, you know, different approaches, and just everything was coming out of me. Sly and the Family Stone, yeah, Led Zeppelin, yeah. My upbringing was just um, full of so many different varieties, bossa nova to salsa and Frank Sinatra, you name it. So I don't know. I can't put a pulse on what my particular sound is, but it's just everything that I absorbed and digested since I was a very young boy.
Yeah.
Tourism. I was
Tourism.
touring record shops.
Yeah. This mixing board is crazy.
Yeah. That board used to have an attitude, let's just say. It was a lot of like, sometimes you have to punch it to make a track work.
Yeah.
It wasn't that bad, but sometimes it was like when you least wanted it to happen, it was like, oh no, not now.
How were the monitors in here listening back to the music in the studio?
Well, what you see there, I believe, is the Yamaha NS10s. Those are like format. They're pretty much in every recording studio. They're probably the safest way to listen to a track with keeping radio in mind to satisfy record labels that you were, you know, making songs for. But I never liked them because they were just too minimal in size. So probably to the left and right, I believe we had the Tannoy 12s, and I can't see them from here, but
Yeah, I can't really. Maybe they'll come up as we pan over. But
yeah,
no,
and
that's
this I
interesting.
believe we had Tannoy 12s with sub bass. Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Heading back over to the rack. I think we're gonna come up on the computer now. Or we might do a little zoom in on here. It's pretty cool. Oh yes, nice. Your life in a box, as you say. So these are the floppies that held the different samples.
Yeah.
Have you tried and hooked these up ever since these
I
sessions?
had them all in my laptop. I digitized them all.
Oh,
So
nice.
every single sound that's on these floppies, like if you could pause it right there,
Uh huh.
Hortuma.
You want me to go? I can go back a little bit to where it was more zoomed in.
Yeah.
Okay, one sec. It's like film study for sports teams. There you go.
So if I could make out what these samples are exactly, I don't remember what Hortuma was, but my little note there says Love Thing. And to me, I read that as probably a drum loop from First Choice's song Love Thing on South Soul Records. Conk was a song that Larry used to play at the garage. That was the name of the band. So I probably took I believe it was like a metal gungy sound from there of the percussion. Aqua Loop was just like a wah, 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 wah. That's it. What I use on Janet Jackson. Wah, 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 wah. Lately bass is from it's probably just bum, bum, just so I could use it as a bass line. And I see Murky, Pointex, that's a one measure drum loop. Up and Away is, so basically all of these equivalent are like, ba-da, ba-da-da, ba-da-da, ba-da-da. That's it. Sometimes you could get two measures, or 2 bars, but that's all that would fit on one floppy disk. This is why I'm going through this. And you know, everybody now knows how much you can fit on, even if it's a minimal key, like 8 GB flash key. Now they make them 132 or more. So every floppy disk in this case ultimately could fit on a very, very small digital key. And another thing I wanted to add to this was back in those sessions, we had something called a jazz drive. It was a rack mount unit that you would buy these discs for that looked like a floppy disk, but it was for memory. And they would hold 1 GB. I could show you one when you come here, Will. And I remember running to a store nearby in the Times Square area where Access was to buy one empty jazz drive floppy disk with 1 GB on it. It was $100.
Crazy.
$100 for 1 gig. Probably get it for like 79 at B&H or a store like that. But still, you know, like
Oh, it's crazy, yeah.
for 1 GB.
I have a question for you, kind of relating this to the present now.
Yeah.
Your style of DJing is so unique, and you bring in samples into your sets to not only make every track different, but to showcase all these different sounds that you've loved throughout your career. Do you kind of bring this mindset of all these samples with these floppy disks and like channel that with your DJing today?
Yes, as a matter of fact, a lot of these sounds are in my remix decks now. And for the most part, most of them were drum loops. And I would just sample from so many different variety of music that I collected in my record collection. But this, how do I apply this? In using the remix deck in Native Instruments Tractor, especially the remix decks, things have to lock. They have to be synced. The tracks, they don't necessarily have to sync. You can, you know, mix like you were mixing 2 records or 2 CD players. So a lot of these older drum songs or records I might sample, before I get them into a remix deck, they have to go into Ableton session so that I can warp them so that they actually lock to the grid. Once they lock, I save the sample, put it into the remix deck, and then it'll work with any song that I'm playing. So that's how I get my joy these days. I'm just so mesmerized how I can bring in a sample from the 70s, from a record nobody really would even ever know. But it makes all the difference for me as a DJ. I'm getting like this factor. And people are hearing it and enjoying it, but I know where it came from. And that's why I love using it, because I do play a lot of techno. I tend to keep techno under 130 always. Average around 128, and it gives it more of a groove for me. And then I tend to bring in some loops that are not so in your face, but just make that difference, give it somewhat of a more percussive edge. So it's not just ding, 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 you know, driving monotonous techno. I like to give it a little bit more of a rhythm feel. And of course, there's the vocal samples too. I have a lot of those. And then there's a lot of things from my recording sessions, like things that are exclusive to me, because if I was hired to remix Depeche Mode, obviously I have all the tracks. I have all the tracks from Green Velvet, so on. So I can bring that in at any second to just go, it's a balloon, it's a balloon, it's a balloon, it's a balloon, you know, and I save that. And there's just so many fun things that you could really never do with records or CDs. You can never do that. You can never, ever play with records or CDs the way I do with native instruments utilizing the remix decks. Unless you bring in a different sampler, you know, you could hook up an Akai sampler if you want, but are they going to lock? No. So
It's so cool though. It's like a technology allowed for like a full expression of everything you enjoy musically. Like you're allowed to bring these things, or you have the ability to bring these things from all the different kind of music you love, reshape it, and introduce it to brand new listeners.
exactly. And, you know, what I might add about, you know, some purist and organic people that think that if you're using a sync, syncing up your CDJs or using Tractor or Serato, when people are making records, they're syncing all the instruments anyway. You know, when we go into the studio, we're locking the drum with the bass and the vocal sample, making sure everything is tight. So why won't we want to sync that up while we're DJing, you know, for a crowd? I understand there's an art form to mixing, but people have to understand that I'm doing this since like 1975. And I used to work with 45s and album cuts that were like, the record would start. And how would you mix that? And almost all of the songs would fade out. They didn't just stop and you could start the next song. So it really was a lot of struggle. There was a lot of struggling in mixing in mainly the 70s, but in the 80s too. But these days, everything is locked. No matter what you buy on Beatport or TrackSource, for the most part, they're all tailor-made, if they're modern, to lock with the next song. And they usually have a very mixable intro, very mixable outro, and it's tailor-made for DJs today. So that's why I think there is an art form with mixing, but it would be much more obvious if it was a person was using it on records from the 70s and 80s, as opposed to today's music. And again, using a third deck or third turntable or a reel-to-reel, those are the things that people like to see DJs do to be creative with, instead of just going from one record to the other. If somebody's using a third turntable, it's like, oh, wow, he's on 3 decks or 3 CDJs or 4, or you're adding something else. So you bring in somebody to play keyboards that day in your DJ booth. We used to do that back in the day. So yeah, there's so many, I could talk about so many things, but I just wanted to clear that up for the people that don't think I'm a purist because I use Tractor.
There's levels to this.
I couldn't be any more pure about how much I love this, and still at this age. Yeah. Any questions?
Yeah, well, there's a few questions. I think it would be a good time we're kind of talking about DJing right now.
Yeah.
2 questions from 2 huge fans. The first one is, we'll go with the Tractor one, and then there's another one about reading the crowd we'll get to. But this is from the Son of Man. Son of Man is an amazing DJ that makes mixes for my super progressive live streams. I got to meet him over in London. Has Danny's setup changed much since he first started using Tractor and the F1 and the X1 hardware? Or does he bring in new toys to his setup?
I'm not that much into bringing new things in. I think a lot of it has to do with I'm in my comfort zone already with what I have. I think that I don't want to call myself lazy, because I'm obviously not lazy with how much preparation I put into the sets and you know, loading up the remix decks. Trying to remember, you could put 64 different samples into a remix deck, and trying to remember them all isn't easy. And so for me to bring in other things, I've done that over the years with like effects like a Chaos Pad, or we used to bring the Jam Man to give us that delay. Even back in my roller disco days, I played in Brooklyn in 1980, 81. We had a reel-to-reel in the booth. Just a lot of people may not know, but if you're playing a record and you're recording it on reel-to-reel, if you bring up the volume on where the reel-to-reel would be, if you were playing it back, it gives it this obnoxious reverb. So it's either hit or miss, but we had so much fun with it. But that's what we used to use for effects back in the early days before they started making these gimmicks for us to buy and apply. But the fact that Tractor itself has so many different effects built in, the Pioneer V10 mixer that I use, that has several onboard effects built in. So that's why I'm not really like looking to bring in like guitar pedals or things that. Yeah.
No, thanks for answering the question. And as I play, the other part of DJing is obviously reading a crowd, and that is heightened when you play, let's say, for 16 hours at Stereo Nightclub.
Yeah.
Fluid Orbit was wondering, and he actually gave me a tour of the Hacienda at Manchester when I went there. Wow. So it was really nice of him. He was wondering, during these long marathon sets, what's it like for you reading a crowd over these expansive amounts of time?
Well, again, if the first club I ever played at in Williamsburg, Brooklyn was in 1976, I've come a long way. I mean, we're actually looking like I'm soon to be approaching 50 years of being a DJ. So there's a whole different attitude now, the way people come to a venue for you, because they want to hear you and see you. And they're coming because they already have this expectation. So you don't have to read them and as much as you used to, because now they pretty much know what they're going to get. Just like I think this could be the same for any known DJ today. If they're going to go hear somebody like Carl Cox, they're expecting what he's going to give. They know that it's going to be a high energetic, pretty much, especially if it's a festival. And if they're going to listen to Seth Troxler, they know they're going to get, a grooving set that, it's going to be hands in the air, a lot of breaks. Same thing, Jamie Jones, Marco, all these guys. You're going to go hear Richie. He doesn't have to read the crowd. He's going to do his thing, and then people are going to, eat it up from the moment he starts. In regard to a marathon set, the approach there is to not give away all your favorite things within the first 4 hours, because more people are still coming. If I start at 2 a.m., some people are still arriving at 8 a.m. So there's a strategy to it, but there's so much great music, and I wind up doing like sets that are kind of like, okay, I'm going to play like a swing house set, if you will. That's kind of like Chug-a-Lug, today's swing house, tracks like Mendo, or the one I just did with Seven. I was gonna say, Don't Turn Your Back, Move That Body. So it's like a funky, swinging, Chug-a-Lug house sound that everybody appeals to, pretty much every dance floor. But then I start to maybe progress into like a progressive sound that you're familiar with, Will. And to give an example, maybe something like a recent Pig and Dan. I got a track recently that Nick Muir and John Digby did the remix of, what's it called? Yeah, brain fart. Anyway, you get the drift with the progressive. And then I could also be very tribally. I like to drop some drums, and ultimately I like to get into some techno. But if I know I'm going to be playing 14 hours, I kind of like find a way to intertwine them with each other. Like I'm not going to go from a Chris Liebing record back down to a Kerry Chandler record 5 hours into my set and then go back up. So you have to mold a certain style. You see the people loving it, but maybe after like 6, 7, 8 songs, you want to bring it down to something else. And then again, that's where my remix that come into play, because I'm able to modify what I'm playing by bringing in certain loops that could be both aggressive and soulful or tribally. And so it's the word I'm looking for is transitioning. So that's what I love about having that many loops accessible to me, because it helps me transition through the genres, including when you get to the end of the night, you want to start playing some classics. You know, it's so helpful because a lot of the older records don't sound nowhere near as punchy and modern, and the technology is so advanced. So if you're playing something like a Paradise Garage era record, if I'm adding a kick and a clap, just let's say those two items, I can make that song sound like it went from 1990 to 2020, you know, give or take. And that's what's important about approaching, especially venues like Stereo. If you're going to apply classics to your sets, but you've mostly played modern stuff, if you're not going to use remix decks to add sounds over it, as a DJ, they should probably take those songs that they want to play into a session and I don't want to say remaster them. Re-EQ is a better word. Add that beef. It makes all the difference, because when you want to go that little extra, okay, here it comes, boom. You want them to feel that impact. If you're not adding some elements to make it match with today's music, it's not going to have the same impact. Unless that's all you're doing is playing a classic set. Then people wouldn't really notice how minimal so many of those records sound. Like you'd hear it in almost all the disco records. They're all bright, mid-rangey. You don't realize how minimal the kick drums and the bass were back in the 70s and 80s. Unless you play it against something new, you're like, wow. Like, you know, I could go on and on and on thinking about, you know, this song, Robert Babbitt's and Timo Moss and all these people made these songs that are like, boom, it just blow you away. Just, I can't keep going on. I could go on and on and on and
We'll bring it,
sidechain
yeah,
and yeah.
we'll bring it back to the production. Yeah, I mean, dude, you could do a 16-hour set and you could do a 16-hour stream answering all these questions.
Yeah.
Okay, so Danny, what are we looking at here? So many questions about what software was used in the studio computer.
My guess is that's either Vision or Performer. Rob Reeves would sit over there and do the programming for me, meaning like he'd operate it. So if I'm doing bass or drums, he'd put it in there and I might say, you know, shorten that note a little bit or let it hang over a little bit. Or if it's keyboard notes, sometimes you could see the whole performance of the keyboards and I might say that note is hitting with another note. Let's make sure it's not rubbing against one another. But that's basically the different tracks. They're all, you know, the separate tracks. So basically what's going on tape is what's in this computer. It's the sequencer.
Nice.
And today, most people today use Logic, Ableton, Pro Tools, and I don't know, Fruity Loops, whatever else people might use, but those are the main three. Yeah, I can't see that.
No, yeah, it's like it definitely ancient. It definitely looks ancient. It looks like hieroglyphics.
It looks like one of those games where you knock the blocks.
Yeah.
You know?
So this is the sequencer?
That's I believe the sync machine.
Oh, the sync machine.
Yeah. SBX 80, I believe.
Nice.
Yeah. And there you have it.
Yeah. Going back around.
And believe it's 25 years, man.
Oh man, yeah. What so
Unbelievable.
yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
it's crazy. Dude, okay, let's just talk about the track for a second. The track is like a global anthem, right, for this music. It's the slogan for different labels out there. It's really like synonymous with the house music experience. It's like music is the answer. How have you How have you reconciled with that as an artist? Is it something that is always you're super positive about? Do you hear it sometimes and you're like, I wish it wasn't getting so much play, so much. How do you feel about the commercial crossover success?
Well, that's the thing, Will. It hasn't crossed over commercially, and that's what I'm glad about because, yeah, let's say, I mean, uh, there's a yin and a yang. Let's say Lady Gaga wanted to cover my song, Music is the Answer. And obviously, that's going to bring me money. That's going to bring revenue because it's going to get streamed and performances, and who knows where else it might be played. Maybe get in a movie. It didn't have that kind of success. It had success with the DJs and the dance culture people, both techno and house, because I provided the acapella with the record, and people tend to like to do their versions of it, whatever they might be playing. They like to drop the acapella in. So it's almost like a chant, if you will, that everybody can relate to. But as far as the commercial success, I honestly, the reason why it wasn't a hit commercially, like on pop charts kind of thing, is because we're living in a culture of videos and artists and packaging of artists, and we were just two underground people. We weren't really like a band. My album featured all different artists, and so we didn't get to push it in a, what's the word, in a commercial kind of way. So a lot of people to this day still don't even know about it, but the right people do. And at the end of the day, I'm kind of glad everything happens for a reason, and I'm glad it is where it is. So that if it was popular by any famous artist, this many people would not be playing it 25 years later. If it was made by, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if a famous singer was singing it, it would just kill the joy of the underground appeal that it still has.
But it's cool. It's like it's kind of like if you know sort of thing. Like
Yeah,
if you're into the culture,
yeah,
you like know exactly what this is about. If you're on the outside, you may not know. But that's like
yeah,
that's what makes all this stuff so cool. Kind of at the end of the day, that it's like a whole universe within
right.
itself.
And that's why I said that about people covering it, because obviously monetarily that would have been nice too, because I don't have all of my records are kind of like that. Be Yourself, Elements, whatever else I did, they're all kind of like in that underground. And I probably started seeing a little bit of money now because of Spotify and streaming, but not much at all. I don't make much money from anything I've co-written or produced. And my career is solely, I survive on DJ income, 100%.
Definitely. Trying to see if we have any questions here as we wrap up. I really want to thank you. We're live for over an hour now, and I know how exhausting this is for me on a nightly basis. It's like you're not in front of people, but you feel like you kind of are.
Yeah.
Oh, Luke L, love the Stacks party. Can we expect another one?
Yes, 100% November. Just taking some time off for personal reasons, but I plan on coming back strong in November doing Stacks Party. We're combining I don't want to give it away.
Yeah. No, but it's coming. It's coming.
Yeah.
We never really got to chat about this, but it's been, who's this?
Who is that?
It looks like, I don't know. It's dark.
Somebody visiting the session?
Yeah. It's been a few months since Stacks now, and you've got to take it in. Like, we did so much coverage of it during it. It was so epic.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about it a few months out? Are you happy? Are you happy that it was such a big project?
Yeah, it was a lot. Again, I've housed and owned these two systems combined for the first one for almost 20 years now, and then the district more than 10 years. And it was the dream to put them all together and have 10 stacks, just pulsing everybody's minds and bodies. And this venue was the perfect room to do it. And I prayed a lot, man. It went really well. Things didn't blow out, and we didn't lose power, things like that I was worried about. Yeah, I would say that next time, it will be even better. And for the record, if we do it at that same venue again in the future, that place has air conditioning now. That was the only problem. It was hot as hell in there.
No, it's great. Okay, I think this is a nice last question because I want to be respectful of your time and I don't want to too much of a good thing. We could literally sit here all night. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But last question, it's kind of related to all this, to this era. If you could have a weekly residency, this is from the chat. If you could have a weekly residency again, would you do it?
Again, like I said, my main source of income is being a DJ. If I thought that it was enough for me to continue, because I recently moved here to New Jersey, I have a decent sized house. I've never lived in a house like this before. It was always apartments. And I took on a lot. I took on a lot of responsibility with this home. So if I was able to do a residency, pay my mortgage, pay salary to my employee, and my obvious bills like everybody else has, car insurance, health insurance, yes, I would do it. But I don't know if a residency would allow me to keep traveling, while I hold down a residency.
Right.
But never say never.
Yeah. No, that's super fair. Well, I'm
I
gonna give you
this. Let me end this with something that I wasn't expecting I was going to say.
Yeah.
I've been collecting records since I'm a child, but I would say the records that I have in my collection is probably about 20,000, a little bit more, maybe 25 maximum, 2,000 records safely say since 1975. And I have pretty much all my records since day one. Same thing with all of my equipment. And I've been thinking about this for a long time, but I think it's going to come a time soon where I'm finally going to start parting with my equipment. Maybe not so much the record collection, but I feel like I don't use it anymore. I'm not as active in the studio as I used to be in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. And so many people, when they see pictures of the vault downstairs with all that gear, they're like, so many questions, and I'm like, I've been blessed with so much joy, of this career and being a part of the scene, that if this mixer or synth or drum machine would mean so much to somebody, then it just sitting in my basement, then I'm going to consider parting with a lot of the gear that I have, because it might just mean something really special to somebody. So we've been talking about this for a long time, but I think we're getting close to considering taking all the inventory, making sure everything works, and then doing some kind of auction. Because I think it's just a nice thing to do, and it's also a way for me to make money too. But I just think that instead of doing it like on a reverb.com, I want to do it via social media first and have people here have first dibs, you know what I mean, on some of the stuff that I want to part with, so that I know that they're friends, fans of me, or just the scene in general. And having that three-way crossover or isolator might mean so much to them, as opposed to somebody far away, whether it's a stateside or another country, that doesn't even really know who I am, or so get ready, people.
Yeah.
I wish I could say that, but oh well.
If I could win the lottery, what I would do is buy, what was the address of vinyl? You always say it.
84 Hubert Street.
Hubert Street. 6 Hubert Street or 84? No. Was it
thinking of
84?
The garage.
Is it 6 Hubert Street?
6 Hubert Street. I'm thinking of 84 King Street was Paradise Garage.
My plan, if I hit the lottery, would be to either buy 6 Hubert Street or buy 530 West 27th Street, Twilo, and turn the buildings into a museum, get your inventory, and put it on display for everybody to enjoy. Like, the amount of people that came here tonight, the amount of people, bro, you see the Instagrams when you go down into the vault. It's like everybody wants to see this. But I think it's really nice of you to recognize that, I don't know, this stuff, it obviously means a lot to you, and it means so much to so many of your fans too. It's really nice. And it's just like physical equipment, but yeah.
Well, yeah, it's going to take a few months, but I think it's going to be a fun project at the end of the day. I have a lot of paraphernalia. I mean, I remember almost attempting to do something like this several years ago at my loft, because I just have so much stuff. And when I used to travel, the countries or locally to residencies, I used to have record boxes, record cases, because it was all vinyl and acetates. I don't use those anymore. But there's so much history, so many of these boxes, or record bags. And I'm like, I'm never going to use those again. Never. Like, they're in a storage where I can't even see them right now, in the attic or something. So if somebody wants to buy it for nostalgia reasons, I'll definitely part with it and enjoy the journey along the way,
Totally. Well, everybody in the chat wants to thank you. I want to personally thank you because this was an idea I had, and you didn't have to say yes, but you did. And I think it went really, really, really well.
Thank you, Will. You're amazing, Will. I want everybody to know how much I appreciate you. I mean, there's so few people that come into your life that have this newfound passion and energy, for the scene, and even for so much of it that you never even knew about or was never aware of, but you welcome it in such a freshening kind of way that it's exhilarating to watch you. And then I feed off of that. It's like, this is where I get my energy back from the crowd in a way. So you, as just one person, is like a big crowd for me, but it really is something else. So I really want everybody to know how much I appreciate you.
I mean, I'm living the dream, bro. Every day driving up to your house is the best day ever. So I really appreciate it. Guy, I know you're back there. Appreciate everything you do. Oh, chill. He's like, I've had enough.
Yeah.
I hear about this every day.
Should we end this by a walk in the garage?
Yeah. Let's show everyone the speakers.
Or the vault.
Or whatever you want, bro.
Now, I don't know if
let's go in the garage, because I don't want to mess with the...
We might lose the Wi-Fi. All right.
Make sure... make sure there's no security infractions.
The long and winding road.
There we go. There they are. Dude, ready?
Oh, there's more? Yes, there's more.
Oh my gosh, ready to rock.
And there's 6 more Berthas, and the extensions are in the shed out back. I'm going to go mow my lawn now. The amp rack.
It's ready to rock for Stacks 2.
I'm never going to grow up. Look what Will got me.
Oh, yeah.
He knows I'm a fan of the Beatles. Big time.
Yeah. All right, Danny.
Anyway, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone in the chat. This was really special. Danny, thank you so much. I'm gonna log off now.
Thank you, everybody. God bless you.
Yep. See ya.
Bye.
Feel free to leave. Bye. Well, thank you, everyone. That was awesome. I just want to say my personal thank you to everyone in the chat. That was really great. So thankful for you guys to be coming. Sorry I couldn't get to every single question, hundreds of them. Hopefully, I think this went really well. Hopefully we can all do this again very soon. Thank you so much for coming, and peace out. Keep it real. I'll see you guys soon. And whether we stream on, I'm pretty much streaming every night, whether it's on Twitch or YouTube, If you love this music, come and hang out. It's been so much fun. Peace out.